Welcome back to our wisdom workshop. Hi, I'm Purvi.
And I'm Julia. Hi.
Nice to see you again, Julia. And today we are talking on chapter 5 about collectivism and individualism, and also trying to link that with feminine and masculine qualities. So you have a quote, Julia, today.
So yes, I know an African proverb, which I think all of us know. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Wow, very nice. Very nice proverb. So we have chosen collectivism and individualism. From my point of view, it is one of the main topics in my intercultural trainings. And since India, or let's say many countries like India, China, Japan, Arabian world, are collectivistic countries, and US, Germany, and more the Western world is more individualistic, of course, with a difference. And this has, of course, a very big impact in the way we deal with each other, the way you do business, and the way of understanding of so many things, and especially of living in a community. And in general, I always try to explain that individualism is the smallest entity in a society, is the person itself. It's you and me and every listener to our podcast. And when you look at the collectivism, that the individual has to step back in order to serve the community. And the question I always get, what is better, and what is, it's always better to decide their own thing. Yes, to a certain extent, yes. But there is no judging on what is better and what is not better. The question is, where does what function? And looking back at that, what Germany had gone through before World War and after World War, we used to have a very collectivistic society, even in Germany. And if you look at the rural areas today, you still have these ways of living where you have, for example, grandparents, parents, children, and grandchildren living in one household. And what does this have to do with taking care of each other and knowing that my personal interests are not always the ones which are prevalent? Because whenever I do something, whenever I make a decision, which is quite major in my life, it can have an impact on others too. So that also has a very big impact on doing business, because making decisions is then being made even if you have a person who is owning a company with 50 years and he took it over by his father. He would always, before signing the contract with you, he would always first ask his father, is that okay doing this, or what do you think about that? And it's not because he's not independent. Yeah, it's very much linked then in the Western world with independency, because we are all happy to be so independent, and we make our own decisions, but it has to do more with respect. And since countries like India, China, and Japan are very hierarchical countries, where you still have this pyramid of the person who tells you something, and you who is obeying to this norms, it still doesn't mean that you're not independent. And it has the advantage of looking for each other, taking care for each other, taking care of your community, has a very big impact on that, how people live and how people think. I think I've spoken now a little bit more, and just from my side, the introduction on that.
Yes, and this is, it's a very, very complicated topic, I think, because there is no one or the other. We always have to look at the context, at the whole thing. So I sometimes even say, and I mean it, when we do things on behalf of our ego, we do things on behalf of the whole. Because the moment when we are healthy, when we are balanced, when we are happy, we can do the things we do with another notion on behalf of everybody else, because we are not angry, we are not envious, we are not jealous. And then the picture of the plane comes into my mind again. When the air gets low in the plane, we need to put on the mask, the oxygen masks, first up on ourselves in order to support the collective, to support the other. So we need a healthy individual in order to have a healthy collective. We can see this anywhere. I'm just thinking about Western and Eastern medicine. in one part of the world, we look at the symptoms and we work on the symptoms, but we never come to the source, the origin of this illness. So we work on the symptoms, and in some times it is just perfect to do that, and the client gets healthy again. In the other parts of the world, they rather look at the source of this illness. So they don't care about the symptoms. So the pain is there, but they don't care. They only want to look at the source. So this might take long. And while this takes long, maybe the symptom is so strong that we start having a butterfly effect in our body, and we use other muscles and we tense them. So one or the other might be in one illness just perfect, but in the other illness not. So if we have both in the back of our minds or wherever, then we can choose. And if we have one and we try it out and it doesn't work, we have the other to choose. So if we are on behalf of our individual or collective, it always depends on where are we, what is being needed, and how fast or how far do we want to go. So again, this proverb is very nice, but there is no either or.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you're talking about medicine, you yourself are a body whisperer, and which is a wonderful thing. And I've experienced also your talents on my my leg, and it was really very helpful. But I think that is exactly what you said, that the Western, let's say the Western conventional medicine is very much focused on the different parts. Again, we separate everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the ancient Eastern medicine, it is a very holistic view on the body, you know. So when you go to someone who's got some other insights than just his own Western way of healing, and would say, okay, I can see that in your knee, but let me start working here on your neck because it is linked to your knee because of this and that. Many people would say, why is somebody working on my neck since I have a pain in my knee? And getting this understanding that it is linked, sometimes in certain moment it makes sense just to have a look at the knee because if the diagnosis says very clearly that there is a fracture in your leg, you don't have to go to the neck. Okay, let's be very blunt and very with an easy example. But that's why I very much agree with you that both sides make sense, but have to be merged, because everyone is right, but only partially. Even those people who are just looking from the allopathy side, I think that's the name for the natural wisdom of medicine, is also a very extreme side, and not including that what the other part says. Yeah, because I think even the modern medicine has achieved wonderful things, which doesn't make sense to deny. Same thing, but it's always interesting to see that countries that merge from a collectivistic way of thinking towards a individualistic way of thinking, what everything is taken from the Western part. That is very interesting to see, that losing your own traditions seems to be in the nature of evolution. That's my feeling. And after a certain period of time, when a new way of thinking or consciousness arises or is merging, that then the next level would be then to say, okay, let us merge both. And the ancient medicine wasn't that bad, you know. So it's very interesting to see what is happening right now in the world, especially even when I look at India, where all this old wisdom was I don't know how you call it, initiated, or where it was founded or developed. I don't know how you call it. It was there already, but 5,000 years ago it was detected. And right now India is losing a little bit it from a certain way, and now it's the Western world that is developing more these Eastern ancient wisdoms. That's very interesting to see. It's, for me, like, it feels like that countries like India, China, Japan, where all these old wisdoms come from, need their time to go through their individualistic way. The Western taking care of the wisdoms and trying to evolve that a little bit better and to integrate that, and hopefully that again can be merged in the world. That's my way of thinking and looking at it.
And it's beautiful again because we're talking about merging here, and actually it's about reconciliation, about reconnection, about we are all separated in a connected world. And here we come again to this individualism, collectivism, or even also when you talked about this before, masculine, feminine idea. So every individual has our qualities within ourselves. I'm a woman, but I have masculine and feminine qualities within me.
Sure.
So, and those are mine. And somebody else has theirs and theirs and theirs. And the thing is, I think if we are aware of the qualities we have, I mean, we can name them later as well. If we are aware of the qualities we have, and if we sort of understand how to balance them and to see what qualities we are lacking and maybe somebody else around us has them, then we can sort of work together and merge our qualities and have a lot of fun, you know, and go far without going too slow. So this all makes sense, but it only makes sense then when the context is a bigger one, and when we understand that we are not only doing this to buy our next car or to shine our next appearance by a handbag from some kind of very special store. So if the context, or if the goal is another, a goal beyond a goal, or a vision, you know, then of course maybe it makes much more sense to work together on that.
Yeah, and we are coming back to the topic that what does an individual need in order to get there, what we are talking about, in order at the end to serve the collective or the society. And yes, of course, on one hand, each individual should do something, but I've also realized, Julia, that not everyone is aware that the behavior of an individual, that he or she, what he's doing is not correct. Because in his or her value world, this is correct. And we think that what we are saying is also correct. And I bet there are many listeners saying, what are they saying? I don't believe in that. And merging all these opinions, and by saying, look, there's some truth, but there's also some truth in the person who says, no, I'm taking care of myself. I'm not interested in the society. It's his or her good right to say so. Everyone is right, but only partially. And to realize that all these qualities are needful and were needful certain time, but we have reached a time where this way of thinking cannot survive, otherwise we will not survive. It will not work. There needs to be a paradigm shift, or a thinking shift there, to say we are a world where we just have this small planet we're living in, and what can we do in order to not survive but live in a dignified way?
Yes, I think now I can answer your question of how can we become aware, because if we have one of these qualities which we really have and we know how to use it, and we use it more and more and more, they get unhealthy if we use them too much, right? So we are not aware of that. Of course we are not. But the moment when our system strikes, goes into an imbalance, goes into a burnout, into a chronic pain, we understand that something in our system is not working well. And because it is easier to, we used to say, oh, it's just my body, you know, I have a sports injury, or I have some headaches, it's the stress, it's my boss, it's the outside world. So we sort of create reasons for why we are not healthy, and then we take, yes, as you say, we work on the symptoms, we take some painkillers or something, but at one point, then also this whole balance lets us break. And at this moment, if we have good therapists who understand how to reconnect ourselves with ourselves, so our bodies with our souls, with our minds, with our surroundings, with the people around us, in order to understand what our system actually wants to tell us, then we can work on what are our qualities, when are our qualities in balance, and what other qualities are there around me which I do not have developed as much as others, and I could learn by watching and learn by experiencing. And how safe am I? Am I going back in my pain? Am I going back in my suffering? Or do I know how to balance that? So we need to work on ourselves in a new way, in a way which is feasible. Again, meditation, going into the void and stuff, sometimes is not feasible. But it's understandable if I have a neck pain which is killing me almost because it's so painful. Well, I'm very sorry, but you're so mind-driven, you're so goal-directed, you're so assertive, you are so linear and logical. Your head has no other possibility than doing that. So why don't you allow the flow to happen? Why don't you become a little bit more receptive? Why don't you let more your gut feeling come through? And then the head can relax, and then the neck has suddenly no pain anymore. And I understand what allowing the flow means. I didn't know before because it was not my quality.
I totally understand that. So there are so many ways to get in touch with oneself, and you're doing it through the body as a therapist. And I think there are many ways, and everyone has to find the way him or herself, which is the right and appropriate thing. But I think I totally agree with you saying that the body shows you if you are fine or not, and where you have your restrictions right now. And looking at the medicine and saying, okay, there should be some other possibilities than just before I go now really into a real burnout, to say, okay, break, and let me see in which wheel am I stuck right now, and where can I get out from it. And I think in today's world we live in a time where we have really plenty of possibilities. That's the astonishing thing. When I look at my parents or even my grandparents, there was a knowledge and a know-how about certain things, but the way it is used today is very open. You can go, you can choose your doctor where to go. Yeah. Do you want to have a conventional doctor or not? Do you want to go there or not? But people still, I have sometimes the feeling, love to suffer. And if the suffering is not severe enough, there is no change there. So the question is, how much suffering do I have to bear? Or where is the point that I need to change right now my way of thinking, my way of my attitude at all? And I think the body and diseases are a very good point to look at, to say there need to be a change. And the very interesting thing is that even there enough of trials were going on with chimpanzees, with apes, yeah, where they also tried to relate to people who had a burnout. And burnout people always said that, especially during work, it was proven that they said that actually the value system of my company did not comply with my own value system. But I stayed back because I had no other, they thought they had no other choice because of the value system, security, safety. I have to take care of my children, of my family, and so on and so on. Which was found out by doing this experiment with the chimpanzees, was that how is motivation created? And it was very interesting that apes were given some bananas, and every time when they were given some bananas, they rang a bell, yeah, and they repeated that very frequently. And they, of course, measured the brain activities. And of course, it was when the banana came and the bell was rang, the activity was very high. But what they did at the end was they just rang the bell. The activity went high, but gave the banana in a later time. And when they got the banana, there was no brain activity. That was very interesting to see. So, for example, if you want to take it to our lives, yeah, the moment you get the information that you have an increase in your salary, you're happy, your brain activity goes up. But the moment you receive the money on your bank account, doesn't change anything. So that was a very interesting outcome of this experiment, to see that money, for example, does not motivate people. I mean, that is known, but having this proven, because we all believe just everything just I see, I believe in. So science has made it possible that even such things can be proven and can be checked. So that is clear that money is not the only thing that drives people, yeah? And there are other values which are very important.
Yes, and coming back to me as a therapist, health is no fixed state. Health is a dynamic flow equilibrium. And the same is anything in life. It's a dynamic flow equilibrium. So having money and giving money away and earning money, paying money and being rewarded and striving for something else for which we want to be rewarded and failing and succeeding again. This is all a beautiful flow equilibrium, and doing something for our own individual good, doing something for the collective good, being very focused, mind driven, being very receptive, heart driven. This can be in each one of us, in the whole of us, whenever it is needed. So there is no recipe. And again, we are at control, you know. We cannot control anything. We can just be whatever we can be in a situation which calls us to be. So we have every quality. Any of us has any quality. Everybody of us has the same organs, and we all come onto this earth naked. We all leave the world naked. So overall, there is no big difference in all of us. I think we even have more than 89% of the same DNA. And we all, I mean, there are like two indigenous populations from which we all come from. So we are all somehow relatives, yes, and we all own everything in our minds, in our souls, in our bodies, what everybody else owns, and we can just make use of it whenever it is needed. So why do we make these big differences? And why do we start doing all this individual stuff?
Yeah, it's true. And I think why are we doing that? I think because our upbringing was like that, because our ancestors, our parents, grandparents, they didn't know it better. And it got lost. And especially in the days, that's what I meant previously, that we live in a world where we can do everything. There is a sentence with our coaches saying that it's never too late having had a good childhood. And that means even if you have had some issues in the past where you realize that must be something in the past which is always somehow present in today's world, even if you're 40, 50, 60, it is possible to work on that. And I think it is also our duty. You have a son, I have a son, and to first of all respect their path, but also to give them from our understanding. And I'm still emphasizing, it doesn't mean that we are right, and later they are going to maybe also discuss with us, like your son does it today, to say, okay, mom, I don't believe in that what you say because I have a different value system, or whatever you said made me make this and that. I would say, okay, but I did it with my best know-how and knowledge, and with my best what I could give you from my heart. And even that might be not correct in few years from his point of view. Yeah. And I think this is something we have to learn to say, yes, today I have this system and with this value system and with my structure, which is not every time patient. And of course, we all are mothers and get impatient, and you get angry and become loud, and all these, we are humans, which is part of it. Yeah. And later, by saying it can happen, it can also happen, hey mom, you were the best, and all the values I take over and I live that accordingly. I would say, wow, what a dream, my utopia has become true. But for sure it will not. I'm quite realistic, but it is, I think, our duty to show at least what we believe, what is right and what is wrong, with the possibility the person to do his or her own mistakes. That is, I think, very important, and not to blame if this person doesn't do something according what you actually think you thought the person, that is
Yes,
going to be a big challenge. Yeah.
yes. And then this, what my son told me was another wake-up call for me, to being humble, to being grateful, to accept the other opinions and still live under one roof and still love each other and still be together as family. And yeah, it is very important, of course, if we all have the same qualities and if we all live as the same individuals, then it doesn't make any sense, Sometimes I compare life with a maze. So we go through a maze and there are all these obstacles in between, and there is not one who can fulfill all obstacles and all challenges. So we need to adapt along the way, and we need to change our leaders along the way. And there is no big leader besides everybody who can take the leadership at the time being.
I totally agree. And looking at that, how we started with collectivism and individualism and how we merged that, I think it makes, to me, it makes at least some sense. But there's much more to elaborate and explore in that. And I think we are done for this chapter. I'm looking forward to the next dialogues we are going to have, and I would also discuss with you, because that would be very close to that what we discussed right now, maybe about emotional hygiene, how important that is, and what would it change that even adults can clean up. In the previous podcast, we talked about that, to clean up first your within yourself. What does it actually mean? It's about emotional hygiene. I could think of it as a next topic for our next dialogue.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful topic. Yes.
So I thank you very much again for your time, Julia. It's wonderful to speak with you and to you, and I'm looking forward to the next dialogue then.
Same here. Thank you very much.
See you soon. Bye.